Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we have discussed about endocrine system part 3. Before we start, a quick review of endocrine system. In the last few classes we did a mistake like enzyme called peroxidase enzyme that converts iodide into iodine. Then we talked about sciatic foramina, that's internal iliac artery and external iliac artery. They separated from each other, or you can say common iliac artery divides into internal iliac artery and external iliac artery at the level of sacroiliac joint. And internal iliac artery divides into anterior branch and posterior branch at the level of sciatic foramina, and the terminal branches of abdominal aorta at the level of L4. So now we will discuss about pancreas, its hormones, and then other local hormones. Starting from the very beginning, what is pancreas? Pan mean all, krias mean mass. The pancreas is made up of mass. 95% of the mass is endocrine part, and 5% of the pancreatic mass is exocrine part. If we talk about this weight of the pancreas, in male it is 144 gram, and in female it varies from 60 to 250 grams. And if we talk about its size, the head of the parts of the pancreas are head, neck, body, and tail. And the size of the head is 3 centimeter. The size of neck and the body is 2.5 centimeter, and the size of the tail is 2 centimeter. Overall length of the pancreas is almost 15 centimeter. Pancreas is a retroperitoneal organ. Pancreas is a retroperitoneal organ, and then we discussed about peritoneal organs. Retroperitoneal organs are commonly called Sadpuckers. The organs which have peritoneal layer at its interior end, that organs are called retroperitoneal organs. For that we have a mnemonic Sadpucker. As for suprarenal gland, A for aorta, inferior vena cava, D for duodenum, except first part of duodenum is a retroperitoneal organ. P for pancreas. Pancreas is a retroperitoneal organ except tail of the pancreas. Then U for urinary bladder. C for colon except ascending colon and descending colon. Colon except transverse colon and sigmoid colon. Then K for kidney, kidney. Then E for esophagus, and R for rectum. All these glands or organs or parts of the body are retroperitoneally present. It means peritoneum do not cover them from anterior and posterior. They cover only anterior side of these organs. That are called retroperitoneal organs. Or you can say retroperitoneum. Retro means behind. That organs are present behind the peritoneum. Then if we talk about few structures we draw over here. Suppose this is abdominal aorta. At the level of T12 there is a celiac artery. At the level L1 there is a superior mesenteric artery. At the level of L3 we have inferior mesenteric artery. If we talk about the level of the pancreas, starts from T12 to L3. And we talk about inferior vena cava. You can see there is a left renal vein and splenic vein. And we know splenic vein plus superior mesenteric vein, they make portal vein. And if we talk about this kidney, this suprarenal gland, this spleen. And if we talk about the location of the cells present in the pancreas, beta cells are present at the center of the pancreatic tissue, and delta cells are present in the intermediate layer, and alpha cells are present at the periphery or peripheral rim of the pancreas. And you can see exocrine is 95%. And pancreas, as we discussed, pan mean all, krias mean mass. The 95% mass of the pancreas is exocrine, in which we have acinous and duct cells which releases or secretes digestive enzymes. And 5% of the endocrine part is called isolates of Langerhans, which have 4 types of cells. 4 types of cells are alpha cells, beta cells, delta cells, F or PP cells. Alpha cells are called A cells, they secrete glucagon. Beta cells or B cells release insulin. Delta cells or D cells release somatostatin and gastrin. And then F or PP cells release pancreatic polypeptide. This somatostatin is inhibitory hormone, not only released by D cells of the pancreas but also from the hypothalamus and any other parts also. The somatostatin inhibits insulin and glucagon plus gastrin. Then we will talk about, so these are gap junctions. Gap junctions are present between alpha cells and beta cells. And on alpha cells we have alpha 1 adrenergic receptors. Then we will discuss, then we studied about cortisol or stress. Stress, induces the production of glucagon. How? Because we studied already cortisol upregulates alpha 1 adrenergic receptors. Cortisol, when it upregulates the alpha 1 receptor, there will be stimulation of alpha cells, and glucagon release will be more, secretion will be increased. Then beta cells have GLUT2 receptors. Okay, then we discussed about GLUT1, GLUT2, 3, 4, 5 receptors. We have one mnemonic called Rani Lakshmi Bai makes India proud, or Pak Bloch Pak heart. Like GLUT1 receptors are present in RBCs, placenta, and kidney. GLUT2 receptors are present in the liver, beta cells of pancreas. GLUT3 receptors are present in the brain, placenta, and kidney. GLUT4 receptors are present in the skeletal muscles, adipose tissues, and heart. GLUT5 receptors are present in the small intestine, and GLUT4 receptors are also responsible for the transport of fructose. Then SGLT, sodium glucose transport are present in the small intestine and kidney. We talk about the function of these transports. GLUT1 transporters, uptake of glucose. GLUT2, uptake of glucose plus insulin release, like beta cells release insulin. GLUT3, uptake of glucose. GLUT4, uptake of glucose with insulin, or insulin dependent glucose uptake. Then we have GLUT4, resorption of glucose, absorption. Then if we talk about, we have a few terminologies like glycogenolysis, glycolysis, gluconeogenesis, and glycogenesis. What is glycogenolysis? This is the breakdown of glycogen into glucose molecules. What is gluconeogenesis? This is the production and formation or synthesis of glycogen from non-carbohydrate source, maybe amino acids, maybe fats. What is glycolysis? This is the breakdown of glucose into ATP, into pyruvate, and NADH. And what is glycogenesis? This is the synthesis or formation of glycogen from glucose. Or you can say synthesis of glycogen from carbohydrate source is called glycogenesis, and synthesis of formation of glycogen from non-carbohydrate source like amino acids and fats, this is called gluconeogenesis. And then we will talk about insulin very first. The normal value of insulin in the blood is 10 microunit per milliliter, and this is the only anti-diabetic hormone in the body. And basically what insulin decreases the level of glucose, fatty acids, amino acids, keto acids in the blood. On the contrary, glucagon will increase the level of blood, fatty acids, amino acids, and beta acids in the blood. They are just like antagonists to each other. And if we talk about the half-life of insulin, this is about 5 minutes. There are two degrading enzymes which break down the insulin present in the liver and kidney. That is insulin protease enzyme and insulin degrading enzyme. And insulin receptor complex, it works through tyrosine kinase. Tyrosine kinase will phosphorylate or dephosphorylate its target proteins. Then if we talk about normal level of glucose is 80 to 100 milligram per deciliter. In the early morning, or you can say overnight fasting, level of glucose 70 to 110 milligram per deciliter. Just after the food intake is 140, around 140 and after 2 hours after the food intake, it become again at normal. Then in rough endoplasmic reticulum, first of all, there is a production of pre-proinsulin, then pre-proinsulin converts into proinsulin, then proinsulin converts into C-peptide and insulin. As we know, insulin is a very, works a lot, and it decreases in the blood very rapidly. So in order to check the function of the beta cells, we should measure the level of C-peptide in the body, because insulin and C-peptide, they form in the same rate, but insulin, works a lot, and its quantity will be decreased in the blood, so we can't check the function of beta cells at the base of insulin. So we check C-peptide, so we can think, or we can know the function of beta cells, how it's working. And now we will talk about the action of insulin on carbohydrates. First of all, carbohydrate and insulin increases the cell membrane permeability, and plus there is a GLUT4 glucose transporter 4 receptors present over the GLUT4 present over the adipose tissues and skeletal muscles, so it is insulin mediated glucose uptake in the hypothalamus, you can say hypothalamus and liver, plus adipose tissues and skeletal muscles, and insulin independent glucose uptake in the brain, RBCs, mucous membrane of the intestine and renal tubule. And in carbohydrate, what insulin do? All the glucose will convert into glycogen. If the glycogen synthesis is saturated, no glucose will convert into glycogen. The storage is full, then glucose will convert into fatty acid. Okay, and we know that insulin have a positive or stimulatory effect of glycogenesis, negative effect on gluconeogenesis, glycolysis or glycogenolysis. This is the just opposite to the glucagon functions. And insulin increases the peripheral utilization of glucose. Then if we talk about the action of insulin on proteins, it increases the transcription and translation process, and it increases the synthesis and production of amino acid. It have anabolic or protein sparing effect, and it inhibits the amino acid conversion to the glucose, because formation of glucose or glycogen from the amino acid is called gluconeogenesis, and we have discussed that it inhibits the gluconeogenesis. Then we talk about the action of insulin on fat. It decreases the lipolysis, or you can say the insulin overall is an anabolic hormone. It increases the amount of glucose in the blood, fat in the blood, amino acid in the blood. Insulin decreases the glucose, fatty acids, beta acids, beta keto acids, and amino acid, fatty acids in the blood. But glucagon increases all these things. So in order to decrease the fatty acids in the blood, it decreases the lipolysis. It don't want fat to be break down into fatty acids, free fatty acids or triglycerides. And it stimulates the enzymes which convert glucose into fatty acid. It stimulates the enzyme which convert fatty acid into triglyceride. It stimulates the storage of fatty acid and triglyceride into adipose tissue, and it inhibits the production of or the release of fatty acid and triglyceride from the adipose tissues. So that is the function or action of the insulin on the fat. And if we talk about the growth effect of insulin growth, it have an anabolic effect with growth hormone, and there is a phenomenon called House animal, in which the scientists cut the pancreas and anterior part of pituitary, and they came into conclusion that growth hormone and insulin, they cannot induce growth, but they can stimulate growth, or you can say growth hormone and insulin are synergistic, have a synergistic effect on growth. And then we discussed, suppose this is a beta cell, how insulin produced by the beta cells. As we discussed that beta cells have a GLUT2 transporters. So with the GLUT2 transporter, glucose will bind and there will be conformational changes, and glucose will convert into ATP. ATP will block the potassium channels, and due to the inhibition of potassium efflux, there will be increased electropositivity in the cell, and there will be action potential, or you can see the cell will be depolarized. The depolarized cell will open the calcium channels, and there will be secretion of or release of insulin in the blood. That's how glucose will stimulate the beta cells and release of secretion of insulin. Then, now we will discuss about the regulation of insulin by glucose. Glucose has a directly, you can say directly proportional or direct response to insulin. If there is increased level of glucose in the blood, it will increase the insulin level. And at the end, insulin will decrease the glucose level. Directly proportional. You can say, if there is a glucose level is 80 to 100 milligram per deciliter in the blood, then synthesis of insulin per minute will be 10 microunit. If there is a level of glucose is 100 to 120 milligram per deciliter, then insulin will produce 100 microunit per liter. And if there is glucose level is more than 200 milligram per deciliter, the insulin will produce 400 microunit per minute. So that's how increased level of glucose will increase the synthesis of insulin. Now do we have a chart over here? This is the time in the x-axis, time after meal, and the long axis, the y-axis, we have plasma insulin level in microunit per milliliter. This is a point where we took meal, or you can say food intake, meal. And what happens just after the meal, within the 15 minutes, the insulin will shoot up to the 100 microunit per milliliter. Why? Because all the storage form of insulin in the pancreas will enter into blood, and after 15 minutes to 30 minutes, it will go down to the 50 microunit per milliliter. Then after from 30 minutes to almost 2.5 hours, it will increase this level of insulin in the blood. You can say there will be this increase in insulin level is due to the new synthesis of insulin by the beta cells of pancreas. So that is a graph you must understand. And regulation of insulin by protein, or you can say arginine and lysine, have a potentiate glucose effect of potential glucose effect on the insulin. And then we have lipid derivative like beta ketoacids, that acetoacetate has a directly proportional to insulin. If the increased level of lipid derivative will increase the secretion of insulin. Then GAT hormones have a directly proportional. You can see the gastrin, cholecystokinin, secretin, and gastric inhibiting peptide. All these factors will increase the secretion of insulin. Then autonomic nerves, you can say parasympathetic nervous system, especially the right vagus, acetylcholine as a neurotransmitter, it will increase the insulin secretion. And sympathetic nervous system, which is a neurotransmitter called noradrenaline, it will decrease the insulin secretion. So that was a regulation of these factors over the insulin. Now we will talk about glucagon. It is also produced by alpha cells of pancreas, A cells of stomach, and L cells of small intestine. And half-life of the glucagon is almost 3 to 6 minutes. And degrading enzyme for the glucagon is 50% degraded by cysteine protease and serine, and 30% degraded by liver, 20% degraded by kidneys. And glucagon work as a cyclic AMP. You can see the glucagon will combine with its receptors, and it will stimulate the G-stimulatory protein that will stimulate the adenylyl cyclase. Then at the end, it will make cyclic AMP that will phosphorylate its target products. Then glucagon can cross the placenta, but insulin cannot cross the placenta. And like insulin, there will be formation of pre-proglucagon, then pre-proglucagon will convert into proglucagon, and proglucagon will enter into glucagon synthesis. Then if we talk about the glucagon action on the carbohydrates, this is absolutely opposite to the insulin. It will increase the gluconeogenesis, increase the glycolysis, increase the glycogenolysis, and decrease the glycogenesis. So it will increase the level of glucose in the blood. It will increase the level of amino acid in the blood. It will increase the level of fatty acid in the blood. It will increase the levels of beta keto acids in the blood. And the action of glucagon on the protein, that it will convert the amino acid into glucose, or you can say it will facilitate the gluconeogenesis. Then lipids, it will enhances the lipolysis. It will break down the lipids into triglyceride and free fatty acids. At the end, it will increase the level of lipid in the blood. And if we talk about the regulation of glucagon with glucose, it is inversely proportional, you can say. And we discussed glucagon. It will come when the glucose will gone, or you can say when there is a less amount of glucose in the blood, there will be increased level of glucagon. If there is an increased amount of glucose in the blood, there will be decreased amount of glucagon secretion, or they have a inversely proportional to each other. And you can say if there is a level of glucose in the blood is less than 80 milligram, that will stimulate the glucagon. If the level of glucose is more than 200, it will inhibit the glucagon. You can see it. And then amino acid also directly proportional to glucagon regulation. You can say it will stimulate the transport of amino acid to the liver cells, and at the end you can say gluconeogenesis. Then the factors which increase the glucagon synthesis and the factor which inhibits or decreases the secretion of glucagon. And the factor which increases the secretion of glucagon are hypoglycemia, decreased amount of glucose. Absolutely, they are anti to each other. Exercise, as we need more glucose in the blood, so we need more more glucagon. Stress and cortisol, as they upregulate the alpha 1 adrenergic receptors present in the alpha cells, so there will be increased senses of secretion of glucagon by the alpha cells. And at the end we have gastrin and cholecystokinin that also increase the secretion of glucagon. Then the factors which decreases the glucagon secretions are hyperglycemia, increased level of glucose will decrease the secretion of glucagon. Insulin, they are anti to each other. Then somatostatin inhibit not only glucagon but also insulin but also gastrin. Then keto acids and free fatty acids. These factors decreases the secretion of glucagon. Then we have other local hormones, or you can say, first of all, somatostatin. No, they're not a local hormone. It is a somatohormone. Somatostatin, it is secreted from the D cells of the pancreas or delta cells of the pancreas, and it also secreted by hypothalamus, D cells of pancreas, D cells of stomach, upper part of small intestine. And half-life of this somatostatin is 2 to 4 centimeter. It also works like cyclic AMP, just like glucagon, and it decreases the motility of stomach, duodenum and gallbladder, and it decreases the GAT secretion, and it inhibits the growth hormone and thyroid stimulating hormone. As somatostatin is also called growth hormone, inhibitory hormone. Then we have pancreatic polypeptide. There is no fun in telling pancreatic polypeptide not also produced by PP cells or F cells. It also produced or secreted by the small intestine. Half-life of the pancreatic polypeptide is 5 minutes, and it stimulates the alpha cells that will at the end secrete the glucagon. Then if we talk about the local hormones, like so pineal gland, which is also called epiphysis cerebri, and we have a detailed discussion about pineal gland when we discussed about diencephalon. Just go through the diencephalon lecture in order to talk about or study about or learn about pineal gland. And then we have thymus. Thymus, it is present in front of the trachea, below the thyroid, and it is very small in size in the infants, and size will increase till puberty. Until puberty, it has maximum size, and then after puberty, the size of the thymus will decrease as age decreases. So then they have two functions. One is T cell processing, and another is endocrine function. In T cell processing starts in the thymus 3 months before birth and 3 months after birth. Or you can say, if there is any problem, injury, trauma, tumor, infection to the thymus after 3 months of birth, it means there will be no problem or damage or pathology to the cell-mediated immunity. Why? Because the T cell processing will start 3 months before birth and 3 months after birth, and there is the damage after birth, 3 months after birth, then there will be no damage to cell-mediated immunity. Then if you talk about the endocrine function of the thymus, first one, the hormone is released by thymosin, another is thymine. Thymosin, it accelerates the lymphocytosis and it proliferates the T lymphocytes. And thymine, it inhibits the acetylcholine neurotransmitter, and increased amount of thymine will give a clinical features of myasthenia gravis. And we know myasthenia gravis. In myasthenia gravis, we have antibodies present against the acetylcholine receptors. And another pathology called Lambert-Eaton syndrome, in which there is a problem in the calcium channels. And we discuss in detail in myasthenia gravis what happens. There will be normal activity in the beginning of the motor activity, and with the time the activity will slow down, like suppose this is slow down, myasthenia gravis. In Lambert-Eaton syndrome, with the pathology in the calcium channels, there will be problem in the beginning of the motor activity, and with the passage of time the motor action will be normal. So that is a different things. Myasthenia gravis, Lambert-Eaton syndrome, increased secretion of thymine. Then we have kidneys. There are 5 hormones released by the kidneys. First of all, erythropoietin. As we discussed, hypoxia is a stimulant or a factor which induces the erythropoietin. As we know, hypoxia, what happens when the person is having hypoxia, we have a cells in the peritubular capillaries called endothelial cells. Endothelial cells of peritubular capillaries in the kidneys, they senses the hypoxia. After the sensation of decreased level of oxygen in the blood or decreased level of oxygen to the tissues, they will release a hormone called erythropoietin. That erythropoietin will go to the bone marrow, and under the influence of erythropoietin, the bone marrow will stimulate its action called erythropoiesis. increase production of red blood cells, and increase transport of oxygen, and hypoxia will subsides. Then we have renin RAS mechanism. We discussed in detail that we have a granular cells present in the juxtamedullary apparatus, or you can say the macula densa cells present in the distal convoluted tubules that are very sensitive to low level of sodium. Then there is whenever there is a decreased amount of sodium comes by the glomerular filtration rate or by secretion, then decreased level of oxygen will sensitize or stimulate the granular cells of juxtamedullary apparatus called macula densa in the distal convoluted tubules. They will release renin. Then renin will go into the blood, and renin will go to the liver. There is an enzyme called angiotensinogen. Renin will convert angiotensinogen into angiotensin 1. Then angiotensin 1 will go to the liver. There is an enzyme, lungs, and in lungs we have an enzyme called ACE, angiotensin converting enzyme, which will convert angiotensin 1 into angiotensin 2. And at the end, angiotensin 2 will increase the sensitivity of aldosterone, and it will stimulate the thirst mechanism, and it will have an effect of vasopressor. So what aldosterone and angiotensin 2 is doing, that it is increasing the blood volume and blood pressure, as decreased level of sodium sensitizes the macula densa, and at the end of RAS mechanism, renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system, it enhances the blood volume and blood pressure. Then if we talk about thrombopoietin, thrombopoietin not only produced by kidneys but also by liver, and it stimulates the platelets production. If we talk about prostaglandins, not only produced by kidney but also the type 1 cells in the adrenal medulla, they release, especially the kidney will produce prostaglandin A2 and E2. The function of the prostaglandins are vasodilation, diuresis, natriuresis. At the end, you can say decreased blood volume or decreased blood pressure. Then last but not the least, we have 125 dihydrocholecalciferol. Okay, by sun, as sunlight, ultraviolet light comes to our skin, or it will convert our 7-hydrocalciferol into cholecalciferol, or with diet like meat or fish, we will have a cholecalciferol. Then cholecalciferol or 7-hydrocholesterol by the skin, and ultraviolet sun rays on the skin, it will convert 7-hydrocholesterol into cholecalciferol, and with the diet like meat or fish, we will have cholecalciferol. Then this cholecalciferol from diet or from the sun will go to the liver. Then we will have a 25-hydroxycholecalciferol. Then 25-hydroxycholecalciferol will go to the kidney. Then we will have that, because there is an enzyme called 25-hydroxylase, which will convert 25-hydroxycalciferol into 125-dihydroxycholecalciferol. That is the active form of vitamin D, and that vitamin D called 125-dihydroxycholecalciferol or cholecalcitriol, with the help of PTH, parathyroid hormone, will calcium absorb, calcium resorb, and bone resorb. Like calcium absorption from the intestine, calcium absorption from the intestine, calcium reabsorption from the renal tubules, and bone resorption from bones to the. So it means vitamin D with the help of PTH increases the level of calcium in the blood, either from the intestine, from the kidney, or from the bone. Then heart, it releases 3 types of hormones: ANP, BNP, and C-type natriuretic peptide. Atrial natriuretic peptide, or ANP, it is present in the musculature of the atrium. Suppose this is the atrium, and there is increased amount of blood volume comes in the atrium, then it will stretches the wall of the atrium. Due to the stretchiness of the walls of the atrium, atrial musculature releases a hormone called ANP, atrial natriuretic peptide, as name indicates. Atrial means releases from the atrial musculature. Natriuretic peptide means its function is natriuresis. It will increase the secretion of sodium from the kidneys. It will decrease the sodium reabsorption. Plus, it also decreases or inhibits the renin, catecholamines, and angiotensin. At the end, it is decreasing the blood volume and blood pressure. Then we have BNP, brain natriuretic peptide, not only produced by heart but also brain, and level of BNP is normal, or you can say mild. But if there is increased level of BNP in the blood, that is an indication for heart failure. Then last but not the least, C-type natriuretic peptide have a similar effect like ANP, and BNP also have a similar effect of ANP. Then if we talk about acetylcholine, it decreases the heart function. It is a stimulatory neurotransmitter. It is what is doing to the vessels, vasodilation, and there is an enzyme called acetylcholinesterase present in the basal lamella of the synaptic cleft. It degrades the acetylcholine, breaking down the acetylcholine. And then acetylcholine, it stimulates the synaptic membrane and opens the sodium channels. As we know, we discussed in cell membrane that the receptor neurotransmitter complexes increases the permeability of cell membrane. So it alters the permeability of membrane by opening the sodium channels. Then what is doing? It is increasing the GIT motility, and it increasing the GIT secretions. As we know, acetylcholine, it is a neurotransmitter of parasympathetic, digest and rest. Okay, then if we talk about serotonin not only produced by retina but also by you can say hypothalamus, cerebellum, limbic cortex, then platelets, spinal cord. All these things produces serotonin. It is an inhibitory hormone. It inhibits the pain impulse from the posterior gray horn of spinal cord. It inhibits the pain impulse, plus it induces the sleep, and it depresses the mood and vasodilation. And if we talk about histamine released by allergy or infection or damage, the action of histamine is vasodilation, plus increases the cell permeability, which leads to edema, plus it increases the GIT motility. Then we have heparin produced by basophils and mast cells. Its function is anticoagulant. It prevents the blood clotting, very useful in the heart patients. Last but not the least, we have leptin. It inhibits the food center. It inhibits the food intake, regulates the body weight and food intake, and it increases the peripheral utilization of the fat for energy, as compared to ghrelin produced by the fundus of the stomach, increases urge to food intake. So that was about local hormones, kidneys, thymus, glucagon, action, regulation. Yes. Thank you so much.